The City on the Hill California Assembly is back in session, and it feels like they never left. CBC News follows the powerful alumni attempting to take over City on the Hill, and the freshman legislators who just might spoil the vision. Plus, is the Patriot Party overreaching? It's all right here on your #1 source for City on the Hill news. Relevant, honest, and unashamed. The COTH Report starts now. Good evening, everyone. I'm Joel Reedy, and you're watching the COTH Report for July 21st, 2015. The 2015 California City on the Hill Assembly is back in session, and a group of alumni and new students are coming together, attempting to form coalitions, working on party platforms, and preparing for their policy goals for the upcoming session. Anthony Rollins brings us a report on the unique mix of individuals that are here this week.
The race to the top in the political world is a marathon and not a sprint. This is one of many lessons that the City on the Hill legislators will have to learn this week, and quickly. In Sacramento today, the new legislators arrived, excited and prepared for a week of legislative work. Elected from various districts and constituencies, these legislators have come together now to begin working through bills, party platforms, and the difficulties of passing law. Some students prepare to run for leadership positions, while others prepare to focus entirely on their bills and legislative agenda. There's money to spend, special interest groups to woo, legislators to persuade, and voters to win. For City on the Hill legislators beginning their jaunt this week into the corridors of power, the principle of patience will be called on to temper the temptation to immediately seize the floor. As the ancient thinker Solomon once said, "The race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong." Representing various constituencies, political parties, special interest groups, personal agendas, these legislators must learn to work with one another, compromising appropriately without losing their own soul in the process. The process of give and take in the legislative body is one that reflects the democratic process of the American people themselves. Alumni returning with much experience to the legislature are often surprised by how quickly the freshman legislators rise to oppose them. Similarly, freshmen who are at first bewildered by the enormity of the task in front of them quickly find their sea legs and approach the problems with new vigor. Governor England expressed excitement today about the new legislators coming in and her hopes that it would be a productive session.
Yes, I am very excited about our freshman class that has come in this year, and I think they are going to really challenge the status quo and the returning legislators, and I'm just excited to see this new blood for City on the Hill.
Governor England, not above partisan politics herself, had a few words of advice on policy.
Well, I am hopeful that the Assembly realizes that the government shouldn't really be in charge of our lives, in charge of what we inject into our children's bodies, whether it's vaccines, telling our kids what to eat, what they can and can't eat, that they need to have 20 minutes after they eat lunch at school. So I'm hoping that this new set of legislators here at City on the Hill will understand that there is a limited role for government, and that government shouldn't just be invading every spot in our life.
Some legislators are already trying to make their leadership strengths known. Others are lurking quietly, waiting for their opportunity to strike. Most importantly, all of these legislators are learning to get along, enjoying one another's fellowship, and preparing for an exciting week at City on the Hill. For CBC News, I'm Anthony Rollins.
Thanks, Tony. We'll see how it works out this week. We'll be right back after these messages.
The Constitution isn't just a document. It's the compass that has guided us for more than 200 years. While much of the world has languished in poverty or been engulfed in revolution, our nation has been held strong by these simple words: we the people. We've weathered through tough storms in this nation before. Why would we want to abandon these principles now? The Constitution Party. Hope for America. The Constitutionalist National Committee is responsible for the content of this advertising.
A patriot is a person who loves and defends his country's interests above his own. He is grateful for what his nation has given him and feels unworthy of the opportunity to serve. When Paul Revere rode to warn two small New England towns that the British were coming, he rode with the knowledge that liberty's well-being rode with him. Today, the Patriot Party still believes that one man can make that kind of difference. Paid for by the Patriot National Committee, not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee. The PNC is solely responsible for the content of this advertisement.
And welcome back. Politics is always the exercise of caution and power alternately. For the majority party, the Patriots, this week will be a unique challenge. As with every party that's ever been in a powerful position in the legislature, where a mere exercise of their party's united will would crush the opposition, the Patriots are in a position to pass as much legislation as they want if they can stick together. But they have to be careful, because by overextending or by alienating the minority or even members of their own party who may sympathize with the minority, they can create a position where they themselves become the weak party. Despite repeated invitations to do so, Majority Leader Tirado declined to set forth what the Patriot Party and his speakership would desire for policy goals for the Legislative Assembly.
What is the most important policy goal to you as a party leader and ultimately as a speaker that you'd like to see get accomplished?
I'd like to see teamwork, honestly.
But what about policy? What are the policy goals? What are the bills that the team is going to work together to get passed?
Our bills, we're going to work together as a team to make sure we've researched our bills, that we understand them fully. Of course, we're going to try to pass our own bills. We also encourage voting based on conscience of the bills.
So what is the most important policy issue to you then?
I haven't taken a look at any of the policies that are going to be presented.
By contrast, Assemblywoman Dunham had more substantive ideas on policy.
I would say some of our policy issues that I really think we should be focusing on is the right to bear arms, the Second Amendment, because we feel like we have the Constitution, a proven document, to stand on that. I also believe that our party should be focusing on the right to life, and that we believe on our statutes that life begins at conception, and that every American citizen has right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, including those who are not born yet. Same with taxes. Another thing that I think our party should really be standing on is that, lowering taxes, especially on our dreadful economy at the moment. So those would say some of the main issues that I think our party should be focusing on.
Only moments after electing their majority leader, the Patriot Party was already preparing to replace him when he was elected speaker in an apparent show of overconfidence.
Abel, we're going to just start with you. You've been elected party leader, and your party has now announced it will be putting you up for speaker, and that that when you win the speakership, you already have chosen who will replace you. Is that right?
We're still casting votes on who's going to be in which position of power.
So you're assuming, though, then that you will win the speakership?
We're hopeful.
You're hopeful enough that you've already taken a vote on who's going to replace you, though?
We're talking about, well, technically the whip would succeed me if you look at the rules. That's what the rules say. We're still taking votes on positions
right, so
of
if
power.
the rules have already provided for succession, why exactly do you feel the need to pick a successor?
Because the rules already state either temporary succession until the party decides otherwise, or it says that that succession may be temporary with a party vote.
So, though you feel confident enough then to go ahead and choose your replacement?
Chris would be my replacement.
Okay.
Majority Leader Tirado and several of his friends denied this openly in front of the entire assembly today.
But the election you guys had for when you're elected speaker tomorrow?
I refuse to comment on that, as that is an internal matter.
Well, I guess it's not an internal matter because you talked to me about it 10 minutes ago, so I'm just curious.
I talked to you about my appointment of Chris, and then we talked about policy issues.
Which you also told me that you had an election for when you guys elect you speaker tomorrow of who was going to replace you for leader.
And you asked me that question, and I answered the fact that, according to the rules, Chris would succeed me.
Yes, but you also told me that you had elected a leader to replace you tomorrow, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that it was you. Was it not?
I decline to comment.
Okay, so you guys elected somebody to replace your leader when he's elected speaker, but you don't want to comment.
Actually, that was confidential.
But the media was here and a camera was running. Why was it confidential?
I'm sorry.
There was no camera rolling.
Assemblyman Tirado spoke on how he was elected and how he appointed.
So you deny that you elected someone to replace him when you beat the Constitutionalists tomorrow for the Speaker's office?
There was an internal decision, but it was based on that fact, but there was no assumptions being made. It was, we have made decisions, but there is something that will not actually take place unless something goes a specific way.
Okay, so you elected someone to replace him when he's elected Speaker.
There is no comment on that. There is no comment coming from the Patriot Party regarding any other decision other than
there was
the
no
election
decision
of the party leader, as well as his appointment of who is the whip.
Nonetheless, only moments earlier, the CBC News team had been present when the vote was taken. When asked about Mr. Tirado's apparent deception, Assemblywoman Dunham was diplomatic with the press.
Well, their confidence is inspiring, but as of yet, I don't believe that we have any substantial evidence besides perhaps some dodgy questions to be able to answer whether they did indeed officially elect a representative. So I wouldn't want to like speak for their party on that since they did decline to comment.
Over in the Constitutionalist Caucus, Governor England expressed her concern that debate students not exclude others.
Okay, so my question is to those of you that are on debate and STOA and your connections to the other party. My concern as the governor is that we are a party that believes in limited government and that we don't believe in the nanny state like the Patriots, the godless party does. And so I'm just curious how you're going to maneuver that relationship and if that's going to cause you to sell out or compromise your positions or platform because of the relationships you have in debate with the other, some of the other members of the bad party.
Well, I'm not in debate, so
I'll answer that. So since some of us do have relationships with people in STOA, it's more of kind of like a brother-sister type relationship. So in essence, we'd be more fighting each other than we would actually be together.
You're not a nice brother.
No. We wouldn't actually like go to the other party.
As a member of the Constitutionalist Party and my former debate partner probably gaining a position of power in the Patriot Party, I do know his strengths and weaknesses, and thus it did lend well towards us being able to debate which planks we wanted to select.
And does he know your strengths and weaknesses also?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So you're a liability.
But I haven't.
In addition, members of the media pressed some of the candidates for more definite statements about what they'd been referring to in some of their speeches.
Assemblywoman Shoemate, you mentioned in your speech something to the effect of that you would not be the type of person who would push your agenda or your goals, but that you'd work together with everyone. I was just curious if you could point to the candidates on the stage with you that would be pushing only their agenda.
I'm not going to point to any candidates, but certain candidates seem to take over the leadership role despite everyone already like agreeing on like they already like had specific points planned out that they wanted to pass. So I feel like to come to that conclusion so soon, you need to have like talk to the whole party beforehand. So that's kind of what I was going with that.
Okay. Are there any candidates who feel personally affronted by that statement who would like to respond? I'm not going to look at anyone in particular because I don't know who we're talking about, but
I would like to say something. I agree that it is good to have like your party discuss things even previously, and like in certain candidates definitely had a plan, and that's a good thing. But I think also it's important to make sure that it's an open plan. That yeah, we have like a backbone maybe, but we need our party to build around the flesh of that backbone instead of it feeling more of like a, well, here's what we have, vote with this, you know, sort of thing. That's just my opinion.
And that's your City on the Hill news for July 21st, 2015. Join us tomorrow night as we take a look at the results from the election for Speaker and the new policy agenda being set forth.